You're listening to the Bust-Proof Business Podcast, taking your business to the next level by taking you out of it. With our experience and proven results, we'll help you find the success that many crave, but only we can help you achieve. It's time to get started with your host, Greg Murphy.
Hey guys, it's Greg Murphy from the Bust-Proof Business Podcast, and today's episode is going to be a little bit different. So I was totally unable to sleep a few nights ago, and that happens to me probably 2 or 3 times a month where I just cannot sleep at all. And when that happens, I don't like to stay home because we have those old wooden floors, and I don't want to be walking around creaking everywhere, waking up the dogs barking, waking up the wife and the daughter. So a lot of times what I'll do is I will just get in the truck and come to work. I just come to the warehouse. And I have this really big whiteboard in my office. And when I can't sleep, sometimes I'll get inspired to really do a deep dive in my business and look at all the things that aren't working and really try to recommit to growth and recommit to doing things right. There's no better ideas than ones that you get at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when you can't sleep. Other people are probably smarter than me, and they drink a glass of warm milk and then go to bed like a normal human would. Unfortunately, that doesn't always work for me. So today's episode is going to be more of an in-depth look at my business and not specifics about what I do, because that's much less interesting than the processes and the goals and how to manage a company. And we're going to be having some guests soon that also have brick and mortar businesses, but it's not even just for people like that. It's just for all of us in general. Just tips and kind of hacks to build a business or just to manage your time. And on this big board, the first thing that I wrote in real big capital letters is that on is greater than in. And what that means is that working on your business is much more important than working in it. And so a lot of us, and I do this especially when I'm in a terrible, terrible mood, what I'll do is I'll just go up and I'll just scan books or I'll move books around. I'm really crappy on the forklift, so I never actually move large boxes of books. That's just a lawsuit waiting to happen. But I'll go and I'll scan books, I'll list them for sale, and I just get sweaty, get dirty, and just take my mind off things. I'll put my headphones in and just listen to an audiobook or listen to a podcast or something like that, and just sort of let the whole world do its own thing. And while that can be cathartic, and you can feel like you accomplished something that way, the problem is that you're actually doing the opposite. You're taking the easy way out. And that's something that my father and I have to talk about a lot, because my dad, who's my business partner, also is a guy that spent his whole life doing a job and doing it well, right? So he would go and he clocks in and he gets jobs to do for the day to help customers. He does those jobs. He helps out his coworkers, and he goes home with the feeling of a job well done. The problem with working in your business instead of on it is that the short-term good feelings that you're getting isn't something that's going to help you in the long term. Because long-term is about planning, it's about strategy. It's not about the tactics. It's not about the doing the job. There's a book called The E-Myth Revisited where they talk all about how, I can't remember the lady's name in the book, but so she loves making pies, and pies are just amazing. And she makes great pies. Everybody loves her pies. They say, hey, Becky, you really need to open a pie business. And Becky says, you're right. I go to this other pie company, and I make way better pies than they do. So I should open a pie company. What Becky doesn't understand, though, is that making the pies is the easy part. And running a business, any kind of business, is harder than just making the thing that you're selling. And so even though you have that passion, that for making whatever it is you're making, that's only the bare minimum part of running a business. I mean, we've all been to those like hole in the wall diners that make amazing food, but that no one's ever heard of. And so that kind of thing because making the good food is only one part of it. You have to have a marketing plan. You have to have a staff to expand so that you're not in there cooking the food 24 hours a day. I mean, all of these things are pieces of the puzzle that we don't always focus on when we think about business. Now, so that's why on is much more important than in. Another thing that I wrote on the board the other morning is that relationships are how we win. Now, I say that all the time on the podcast, but it's something that there are times in our business where I can forget that for myself. And we kind of get in this thing where we don't look past either the sources that we already have for books, or the staff that we already have, or our local partners that we already have. We just don't look past what we have that's right in front of us. And that's especially true for someone like me, where I'm doing way more. I'm trying to work on multiple businesses at once. And so the status quo for me and for a lot of people is preferable, just because we already understand it. We already know it, right? But there's been a recent opportunity for me to go to fly out to the East Coast to meet with someone that I've talked to on the phone, that I've emailed back and forth with for years. And for a long time, I'm like, well, should I do it or should I not? The answer is, of course you should, because of the downside is a few $100 for a plane ticket. And the upside can be a big change in a relationship with someone that can make a huge difference in our business. And so whenever something like that comes up, it doesn't have to be a relationship with a supplier or with a customer, or it can even be with an organization, right? You got to look at upside versus downside. The downside is maybe it costs a little money or it takes a little time, but you're never going to know the outcome of the at-bats that you don't take. Now, we all know that we all make tons of mistakes. I'm sure I make more than my fair share, but that's not the stuff that fills me with regret, because I know what happened. Yeah, I screwed up. I said something stupid to my wife or to my dad or to my employees. And then that's normally how it works, by the way. That's most of my mess ups are saying things that I shouldn't say. But anyway, so you say something or you do something dumb and you're like, oh man, that stunk. And that happened and I regret doing that. But my biggest regrets are the opportunities that I don't take, the at-bats that I don't take, the pitches I don't swing at. And that's something that we need to make sure that we're focusing on. Another thing I wrote on the board is that doing a $10 an hour job equals failure. Now, we obviously already talked about how on is greater than in your business, but if I'm easily distractible, very easily distractible. And so I see things all the time that I think I could do better than the team that I hired to work for me. And that should be the case. But one of the things we have to understand is that 80% is almost always good enough. So if you have someone on your team that's doing a $10, $15 an hour job for you, and they're 80%, you've trained them to where they're 80% as good as you are at it, that's good enough, and you need to go focus on something else. My day could be and has been many, many times sucked completely up from dealing with small tasks that I shouldn't have bothered with, that I should have let got done with a B, rather than me trying to bring my A game to it to make sure that it was done perfectly. And that can happen. I know a lot of friends of mine that are, if they're listening, that are cringing right now, because not me, but a lot of people are perfectionists, where everything has to be perfect. I'm lucky because I've been able to build my business to where it is, because for me, good enough has always been good enough, both in school and now in business as well. So if I do something that's good enough, then it's good enough, and let's move on. And I've been able to internalize that because I'm at heart a lazy person, and so I'm able to do enough, minimum viable. Like I'm able to do enough to make something work and then move on to the next thing. Now, the next thing that I wrote on my board is take one step at a time. This is advice that I have to I have to really take to heart. And obviously, this was a message that I wrote to myself, right? One step at a time is important because what we can do is we can say, and on this board, guys, just so you know, I have probably about 50 tasks that I've written on this board. And so if you're visualizing, on the far right are all these little sayings that are going to help me out we're going over today. But the rest of the board is covered up with all these tasks that need to be done for my different businesses. And so one step at a time is really helpful because I have 50 or 60 things that need to get done over the course of the next couple of weeks. But it's important to realize that all these things can happen one step at a time. Just you do one thing and then you move on to the next thing. Now, multitasking is something that may work for some people, but for most of us, what it does is it makes you less effective. So one of the things that I have on my list is to meet with my Uncle Matt to look at developing some in-house automation for some of the things we're working on. We'd like to have it work more automatically without as much human interaction in some of the things that we do. And I've gotten quotes for some of that, but I think that it doesn't seem very complicated to me, and my Uncle Matt has done things before in this arena, so I want to meet with him to make that happen. And that's really just the first step in a large process. Another thing on my board is to promote some people in my staff to take some of the stuff that me and my shop manager Angus do off our table. And all these things are going to take a lot of time, but if what we do is work on one thing at a time, you cross that off the list and you move on. Your job, what you're doing at your business can seem to be overwhelming, and mine certainly does. But if I just take a deep breath and back up and say, okay, this will get cleared out, but I have to focus on just one thing at a time. And if I allow myself to say, I did 2 or 3 things today and feel successful, then I've done a good job just mentally. Like, my mental game is on point. If what I can do is say, okay, I took care of 3 things on this list today, I'm in good shape. Because I come into work knowing that my 8 or 9 hours that I'm here are mostly going to be filled up by things that I, as of now, don't know what they're going to be. There's so many moving parts. There's so many things happening. There's so many things that come up. There's so many distractions that if I can just focus on taking one step at a time, if I can focus on getting maybe one to 3 tasks done per day that moves my business forward, we will get there eventually. What doesn't help is you see all these things to do and you nibble at a bunch of them. You make a little bit of progress here, a little bit of progress there. And what you're finding out is that you're actually doing nothing at all. And so you've taken the whole day and accomplished nothing. And that's something that we need to get over. The next thing that I wrote on the board is focus equals money and distractions equal failure. As we know, we can't focus 100% of the time and we can't get rid of distractions. But know, you have to internalize this and know that every time you take your eye off the ball, it costs money. Every time. Now, I don't mean on purpose, right? I don't mean if you decide to take an hour or take 2 hours to go to the movies during the day. I don't see that as a failure. We all need to decompress. And I'm certainly a guy that realizes that, hey, sometimes I just need to check out for a little bit because it can get a little bit overwhelming. I'm a little bit more frail with my mental game than a lot of people are. And so I have to be really on top of that and control that for myself. And to know that, hey, today I just can't handle a lot of this stuff right now. So I need to take a step away, decompress, kind of veg a little bit, and then get back out there. And a part of that, the last part of all this, and the most important to me, it gets big stars and circles, is to control your time. And again, controlling your time doesn't mean that you're always working. But controlling your time means that you have a plan for every part of your day. You don't have to have it planned out to the minute, to the second, but have blocks of time that are carved out for certain things. A good friend of mine, Ford, I talked to him last night on the phone, and one of the things we talked about was how he was working to batch his emails. Like he would only respond to emails twice a day. And I first heard that in Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek, where, do batching, where you do emails once or twice a day. And it's something that I've tried to do. I haven't been as successful as he has been, but realizing that, especially someone that tends to be as distractible as me and other people that are more entrepreneurial, people like that are way easy to be distracted. They're way easily distracted. And what needs to happen is that we need to understand that we have to be in control of our time. Because again, it can feel good. You can get those quick hits of dopamine to say, hey, I see a problem right in front of me. I'm walking in my warehouse and I look to the right and see someone that's doing something that I could do more optimally than they are right now. And I can go over there and fix that problem. And then I can get a quick hit of dopamine because I accomplished a task. Like I can put a win in my mental column. Like I did something. The problem is that whatever you were thinking about as you were, at least for me, I was thinking about something. I was focusing on something as I'm walking down through the warehouse. I see this, it distracts me. I go fix it. I get that quick hit of dopamine, and now I'm confused. Now I look like a guy lost at the airport for at least a half a minute until I can figure out where I am and what I'm supposed to be doing. And sometimes I lose the thread completely. And I just walk around like a pinball until I find the next thing to distract me, get my next quick hit of dopamine and like sense of well-being that I actually got something done. So that's really what I wanted to share with you guys today. This obviously wasn't a normal episode where I have an interview, but this is something that I think is important, and I think that this kind of thing is going to happen sometimes, right? When I have something that I just want to share with you guys, I think that it's useful, and I think that you guys are going to appreciate it if you really take time to implement these types of ideas. I guess one more thing, the thing that frustrates me the most about people that I work with or that work for me on my team, the yeah buts, and partners too. Like when the yeah buts, when you give a suggestion or you ask them to do something and the response is yeah, but and I know that throughout this monologue today, you guys, when I'm talking about these things, some of you guys that are listening are saying, well, yeah, but whatever it is that your rationalization is for what you're doing. I'm telling you guys, it's important to know who we are and get rid of the yeah buts. Really control your time. Realize that working on your business is more important than working in it. Relationships are how we win. Doing a $10, $15 an hour job in your business is failing. Take one step at a time. Realize that focus means money and that distractions mean failure. So guys, thank you so much. Remember, you can always go to bustproofworkshop.com. This is the kind of stuff that you're going to find in the Facebook group and Bustproof Book Flipping. This is the kind of stuff that you're going to find in our labs group, our paid membership site. You can go to bustprooflabs.com. You can learn more about that. But this type of training is the kind of thing that you're going to find. A lot of back and forth. I wish we could take questions. In fact, what you guys can do is you can email me, Greg, at bustproofbusiness.com if you have any questions about the episode today or any questions about how to implement this stuff and what you're working on. So remember, guys, with everything else, make today count.
That's all for this episode of the Bustproof Business Podcast. Be sure to point your browser to bustproofworkshop.com to sign up for our mailing list and to get your opportunity to enroll in one of our specialized seminars, guaranteeing you continued results in typical Bustproof fashion. Thanks again for joining us. We look forward to taking your business to the next level right here on the Bustproof Business Podcast.